I would call people in the morning and wake them up at 5:30. I'd be like, on the days they have class and I know the potential bunkers, and I would call them and wake them up. I would even pick people up on the way to class because I used to drive around early morning classes, So I went like out of my way to build a community, and that community was not accepting any trainer to come and replace my classes while I took time off to heal.
What was your workout for the morning today?
It was fairly intense. It was many rounds of toast to bar and power cleans and getting assaulted on the assault bike.
Why is it important for women to lift weights?
Women are more prone to loss of muscle and bone starting 40s. Basically, before we hit menopause, and after hitting menopause, it's even faster. One of the only ways to age gracefully is preserve your muscle mass.
You speak a lot about functional fitness.
When we do a lot of household chores, from sweeping to mopping to washing utensils, if you don't do it at home, you do it at the gym, except that in the gym you're doing it with equipments, and in the house you're doing it with stuff in the house. That's the only thing, which is why it was named functional, because it is what your body is functionally supposed to do: bend, squat, lift.
What is the new in you which you feel can make you a better entrepreneur now?
I think I've learned more on how to run a business. Back then, a lot was done from the heart.
Would you want to be an entrepreneur again?
I'm working on that again.
What was the support system which you had and perhaps didn't have?
I had only one support system. It's my husband. What I am today, it's only because of my husband.
Hi, welcome to The Other Side. I'm your host, Dilip, an entrepreneur and an endurance athlete. In this podcast, we will explore the experiences of high-performing individuals while unpacking their mental and physical fitness routines that took them to where they are. Hi, welcome back to another new episode of the podcast. Today I'm going to talk to Shwetambari Shetty. She is one of the most well-known fitness evangelists, ambassadors in our country, but there is a very unique and unknown other side to her. She's an author, she's been an entrepreneur, she's soon going to start a new venture, she's a mom. So there's a lot to unpack and explore her other side. Let's get into the podcast. Great. Thank you, Shweta, for agreeing to come and talk to me. There's a lot to talk, but before I thought to check with you, so people call you all different names. Shwe, Shweta, Shwetambari. What do you prefer to be called?
Shwe for sure, because it's simpler, but I love my name Shwetambari, and honestly for the longest time in school I disliked it, and suddenly, I think as I just grew up, I found this new love for my name. So I would always want to be addressed as Shwetambari because I felt like it had so much power in it. But Shwe is what everyone fondly calls me. So
I'll go with Shwe.
Yes, Dilip.
Thank you, Shwe, for taking time to come and talk to me. There's a lot to unpack, and I was trying to understand if there's any parallel. What is it with all Shettys getting into fitness? There's Sunil Shetty, there's Rohit Shetty, there's this Shwetambari Shetty. What is that about?
Oh my God. I think where we come from, Mangalore, Kundapur, Udupi, is just, we're basically a lot into farming. So I always give that example to a lot of people, that the strength that we have in us, like the physical strength, I'm not even going to the mental, emotional, a lot is to do with who our ancestors were. So we're genetically kind of strong race, is what I like to believe, because that's what I see back home. I still go home very often to my village. So I see that a lot of us are genetically quite strong and quite blessed.
Brilliant. So let's start with the girl from Kundapur then. Right? I mean, the girl from Kundapur going up, taking a career in banking, to becoming a sought-after fitness evangelist and ambassador, becoming an entrepreneur, and then much more beyond that. But I want to unpack first growing up. What was childhood like? What was it staying at home? What was the definition of health and fitness back then?
Yeah. First I want to thank you for, having me here. But every time I talk about growing up, it's so, I don't even know what's the right word to use, but I would never have imagined to be sitting here and talking about my journey, my childhood. And even when I'm on stage doing something else or doing an event, it's like a dream that I never had, because that's how growing up was. So this is a village called Kundapur, which most people haven't even heard. It's from Mangalore. You like drive in 2 hours and you find this pretty little place. And we were, of course, a middle class, upper middle class family. Father was like a banker, so we traveled quite a bit around the country, but mostly in Kundapur. That's where life started. And we were told very clearly that your life is going to be about you study this much, you get married at this age, and then you have kids. And then obviously career is optional. If you get one or have one, good for you, but it is not mandatory. And a lot of us, of course, in the family ended up studying to be an engineer or a doctor. That's how all my cousins are. My sister and I kind of chose to move into arts and, commerce and things like that.
Someone has to be an outlier.
Someone has to be, right? The entire family was never really happy with the decisions that we made. Parents didn't have a choice but kind of support. But it was, and I grew up with that thought. I'm like, okay, I'll finish. And I finished my BCom and I wanted to do MBA. And that wasn't like really a choice because my father said, no, I don't want you to go somewhere else and do an MBA. I want to, start looking at potential grooms and get you married. And I was fully okay with that idea. I said, okay, fine. I won't study. Let me at least get a job for myself while you find that groom for me. Okay. So I got myself a really amazing job at HSBC. I think that place literally kind of made me the person I am today, strong and confident and independent and so on and so forth. And parents were very proud about the job I had. And they kind of felt it was going to get easier for them to find me a groom because I had this job at a multinational bank. You know what I mean? And that was a phase that today, when I look back, I laugh, but 21 to about 28 was very unpleasant. I loved my job. I always looked forward to going to office and sitting there with all the people because I enjoyed it so much. But coming home was so unpleasant because it was always the discussion was marriage, right? I'm not blaming anybody. I mean, that's how our culture and system is, so it's okay. Dilip, I'm not exaggerating, I would have met at least 50 men to, potential grooms. Like I said, today I'm laughing, but it was torturous because there were moments where I would meet and then I would say no, and then there would be like ruckus at home. I'd be crying, mom would be crying. It's a typical scenario. I don't even know if women go through that anymore, or maybe they do, but it's very, very unpleasant. Okay, so anyway, cut to, I meet my current husband through a friend because my friend was tired of seeing me being tortured, meeting people. So she's like, I'm going to introduce you to someone who you should marry. And that's precisely what happened. And that also was difficult because, he is from a different, like I'm Mangalorean, he was Malayali. But anyway, things worked out. And I think life for me really changed after I got married. Like I lived a good life. I'm not complaining. I love my parents, but it was very different. It's as difficult as most Indian women probably have it. Today they're very different. The way they look at me is very different. There's a lot more respect. Back then it was more about, okay, you didn't get married to anyone in the community. You are just, a commerce graduate and okay, you got a good job, that's all, But life really changed for me post-marriage. And what I am today, it's only because of my husband.
Great, yeah. I mean, sorry for the 50 men who probably might be watching this, I don't know. But kudos to the gentleman in life. I think every one of us need that protagonist who kind of anchors. And I'm really happy, when we look back now, there's this great anchor for you.
Yeah.
But I'm more keen to kind of go back, growing up, one sister at home. What was it like being active? What was the fabric at home? Was it? I'm thinking it's 80s kid was
Yeah.
playing a thing, especially for a girl child. How did that seed to who you are today?
Yeah, I think honestly that worked in my favor, primarily because my father was a sports person. Like he did a lot of sports, and his favorite was tennis. He also got diagnosed with diabetes very early on, at 35. Right. And that time, getting diagnosed with diabetes at 35 means you've done something drastically different with your lifestyle, which he did, from playing and being super active all his life to suddenly becoming super sedentary and taking to alcohol, literally every day, like changing his lifestyle. So when he had diabetes at that age, and I think when he was 35, I was probably 5 or 6 or something, and he started doing a lot of yoga at home. He started doing a lot of walking and running. I used to join him, and he was happy for me to join. So I had started yoga with my father at age 6. And then running, walking with him, going and playing some sport with him. So that became a very, integral part of our lives. And because we spent all the summer holidays in the village, no matter where we were, it was always about outdoor playing with the cousins. So we were always outdoor. That part, I think, really worked in my favor. And while my parents really pushed us to do a lot of sports, it did not become the center of everything. The studies were still the central. But I must say that I think all my life, starting from age 6, I've been active, and that's translated to the entire family. Now I can see how that's actually translating or transferring onto my little one as well. Being active, mostly activity was like either a sport or walking, has been there since then. And even today, actually, dad by 7:30 a.m. has finished 15,000 steps, because he realized that if there's one thing that's going to keep him alive for a long time, and he's going to be able to live quite healthy despite having all those issues, lifestyle diseases, is exercise. And to a large extent, eating right, but that he still fully doesn't practice. But yeah, he's been a man who's exercised himself. He realized the mistakes he made. And even during my pregnancy, my mom was fully against me exercising, also because I had a late pregnancy. My father was like, no, he would exercise with me to support me. And he was like, no, it's the right thing you're doing. So movement exercise was something that we built in at a very young age, truly helped.
Great. So while you were talking, I was trying to figure out what all we should unpack, and I'm just trying to figure out a chronology. So clearly there is the other side of Shwe, other side of Shwetambari, which is this journey from the girl who got into the dream job at HSBC to be a trainer, to be an entrepreneur. Then, of course, we can get into some specifics around fitness, which I'm sure would be most of the FAQs we slide into your DMs. People are asking. I got a few DMs about what to ask you, so probably I can throw that in. And then I would love to talk about the new 3-year-old
Yes.
and this anchor in your life, because I think both of them kind of in a way are also redefining who you are today.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the girl from HSBC. How did that journey move into fitness? So there's a dot now. You were active while you were growing up.
Yeah.
Life took you to a corporate pursuit, and you got your dream job. From there to becoming a very sought after, respected trainer. What was that jump? Because that seems a very odd jump.
Very odd jump.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was a happy accident, because 7 years of my life I spent at HSBC, my first job, and I think it would have been my last job also. I would have continued there for like 15, 20 years, because that's how much I enjoyed being there. They really respected me for what I did and who I was, and I saw growth at the right time. So it was beautiful. One fine day, I had my sister, like someone else approached her, and then she told me that there is this role at a health club, which is a new health club in Bangalore, a very fancy one. It's called Zella Health Club. It doesn't exist anymore. They're looking for someone to manage the place, like a general manager, whatever. I was already doing a lot of people management. So I kind of knew that what kind of role that would be. Thought a lot. I'm like, what's life without taking a few risks? I mean, I've been so comfortable and getting into complacency now. So, I should. So that's when I said, you know what, I'm going to do this no matter what. Even if I dislike it, I'm going to learn something. Worst case, I'll just come back to HSBC. So I went, and just in a month's time or less than a month's time, I was like, what was I thinking? I didn't like it one bit, right? Because it was too intense. It was a startup. I was not ready for a startup life, because you know what a startup life is like. And I somehow pushed it for 7 months. I think what it taught me was that I liked the whole space of fitness and everyone sweating it out and feeling good. I got to learn Zumba fitness while I was there. It was the first time in India it was happening, and I was invited to be a part of it because they did it in that center.
So you were not a trainer before you got into Zilla?
No.
Oh, okay.
I was a general manager there. That's
okay.
all.
That's because of your corporate background?
Corporate background.
Okay.
That's all. But the vibe was so amazing. I liked being there, but then the work was so much pressure that in 7 months, I quit. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So 7 years of HSBC to 7 months of this, and I'm in a space where I'm like, what am I doing with my life? And even when I did that Zumba certification while I was there, I was very reluctant. It's like they actually kind of forced me to do it, and I'm like, yeah, fine. You know what? I'll do it. Wasn't very enjoyable experience, but I'm glad I did it. And then I quit, and I got married. All of that kind of happened simultaneously. So I said, look, I think I can afford to take a break for 3-4 months because, I have like a strong support system now. I can afford to like not earn money and stuff like that. So I took a break, and then I sat at home. I did nothing for 3-4 months. Felt good, but I'm like, okay, there is something that I need to do. Which is when, I went back to this whole Zumba certification that my husband's like, you should look it up, take on, the membership and start. So I started at this studio, and it was a very small studio. I was supposed to get about 5-10 students for my first class. Just one person turned up. I'm already super nervous, right? And then one person turns up. So I'm like, how do you figure this situation? Do I do it? Not do it? I did it because I'm like, someone showed up and you can't turn them down, and they paid money for it. So I did the session, and that by the end of that session, I knew what I want to do for the rest of my life, right? Because this lady who did the session with me for 30, 40 minutes was beaming. She was smiling, she was sweating, and she was just so happy. She was like, this is so much fun. She's like, thank you so much, and I'm going to come back. And then I'm like, if I can have a job that can make people happy, that can make people fitter and healthier, I mean, and it's giving me some money, maybe not a lot of money, but some money. I said, this is what I want to do. So I go back home and I tell my husband, I'm like, I'm not going back to a corporate life. I'm going to explore this for the next 6 months or something and see where this takes me. So I go full on. I become a freelance trainer. Again, my family looked at me like I'm crazy. They're like, a trainer, you're going to be a trainer, because none of them in the family go to a gym. What they do is do, like jogging and sport. And so for them to hear me becoming a trainer was a little unusual, but I only needed my husband to support. So I'm like, I'm doing it anyway. I think I was lucky to be at a time and space where it was very niche. So I was one of the first people who got certified in Zumba, one of the first few trainers in Bangalore. So a lot of people and gyms started calling out, come teacher, come teacher. Then I started experimenting, taking up my own little studio spaces, renting it out, teaching. So the next thing I see, I'm teaching like 3-4 sessions a day at different areas around Bangalore. I think that kind of also caught on the media. So then I started appearing in some newspapers, magazines, events, corporate events. So slowly, that name kind of started picking up, and I'm like, this is amazing. I'm making a decent amount of money too. And I said, I want to continue doing this. And that's it for the next, I think, 11, 12, 13, 3 years, I was at it. And I was at the peak and operating on my own. I didn't have to really worry about taking leaves and this and that. It was a great job because I worked for 3 hours a day, physically extremely hectic, but I had enough time to be at home, be available for, family and etc. And I made some money and it kept me super fit and everything just worked out perfectly until I had an injury because of overuse. So I had to take a break. When I had that injury and I had to take a break for 6 months, Sudeep came into my life, right? He took over all my classes because, I, in those 3 years, had built a community because I understood that this job that I was doing as a trainer or a coach was not about come in to the gym or whatever studio, work out and leave. For me, it was like a passion project. Like if you've given me 3,000 rupees a month to come to my classes, I want to be able to ensure you're consistent. And that was my goal because only then you're going to renew. I would call people in the morning and wake them up at 5:30. I'd be like, on the days they have class and I know the potential bunkers, and I would call them and wake them up. I would even pick people up on the way to class because I used to drive around early morning classes. So I would pick people up if they have excuses like I couldn't get an auto or a cab, So I went out of my way to build a community. And that community was not accepting any trainer to come and replace my classes while I took time off to heal. But Sudeep was an exception. He was phenomenal at what he did. So he took over for 6 months. I took a break. I came back stronger. And that's when this whole lifting weights and strength training came into my life. Because until then, I was like this, what do you call, like a Duracell battery, like only just active cardio all the time. Yeah. And then strength training happened. And then Sudeep one fine day walked in to my house and we sit and he's like, we should start a space that is going to be about group fitness, just like what we do, but a little more. I always wanted to do a small boutique space of my own, not massive stuff because massive stuff means more money and I didn't have that kind of luxury at that point. But when he spoke to me about this, and with the conviction with which he spoke, and he was going to do his CrossFit certification in Singapore and come back, I knew it meant something. So I sat down with my husband, looked at the finances. Obviously, there was no one to give us the money. But I'm like, if I don't do it now, if I don't take the risk now, it's never going to happen. So I got married at 29, 30, and this plan happened at, I think, 32, 33 is when Sudeep came to me and we spoke about this.
So this is your journey as you start your new venture.
Yes, just before that. Yes, correct.
So till then, and I kind of casually call fitness trainers more like endorphin dealers.
Yeah,
right?
You're right.
You're basically pumping endorphins to people, right? So till you start this venture, which is your entrepreneurial stint, you were essentially a trainer.
Yeah, a freelance trainer.
Freelance trainer, either syncing up with other clubs, or maybe, I don't know, were you doing personal training as well?
No, just the group classes.
Group classes.
At different.
And this is when you were doing a Zumba.
It was called Zumba back then. Yeah.
Which is was a fairly new format back then, right? It's a new concept in India, and it's
from Miami, so
it's picking up.
It's not there anymore, thanks to Cult.fit. But but back then it was huge, and I had become one of the master trainers for the country then. I mean, over a period of time. But it was very.
So what was the process in the gap between the sabbatical to figure out that I have to upskill myself, and the process is to go out and get a Zumba certification? What was your signal to go and do that?
That certification happened while I had that job at the Zella Health Club.
Okay.
And that was the one I was talking to you about, that I very reluctantly went and did the course. I had to do the certification because they wanted me to do it, not so much because I wanted to do it. So it was, all of that was like a happy accident. And it came of use 4-5 months after, because then my husband's like, why don't you give this a try? because I was looking at we have all the course material. So I just put it up, and they were all CDs at that point, right? We're watching the CD and I'm like, okay, this is exciting. And it's dance. And dance was something that was close to my heart because I didn't do professional dancing, as in I didn't learn because my parents never thought it was
But you were
okay
keen in doing dances?
I was. I wanted to learn Bharatnatyam, Kathak, and all that. My dad was like, no, you're not doing any of that. So I never got the opportunity to learn all those. But then when I found fitness and dance come together, I was like, okay, this seems interesting. But when I did the course, I was not in a great state of mind because I wasn't happy with my job at that point. Later on, when I started experimenting at home, I realized how much this format is really strong. And of course, it translated into my class and my students loving it and people talking about my class.
Yeah, so a forgotten skill kind of anchored your future.
Yes, literally, yes. All through my HSBC days also, by the way, the 7 years that I was at HSBC, I was active through dance. Because we used to have like a team at corporate. You know how these corporate things work, like these big corporates, they have cultural team, this team, that team. So I was a part of that and I was very active through dance and some amount of sports. So it kind of became and I have to tell you this, I also remember how my parents appreciated my dance only at parties. They would force me to perform for everyone else.
That's a thing in India, right? I mean, when you go in social gatherings, the dad or the mom will ask the kid, why don't you dance for the uncle there and show off your skills?
Yeah, we recently spoke about it, like a friend of mine and I'm like, how did we even do that? Like, just get up and dance in the middle of a party.
Yeah. Just to show other people that you have a skill.
Yeah, that my daughter has a skill is lame. Yeah. But the fact that turned into my professional career is wonderful to think about. But that's how it happened. That's how Sudeep came into my life. And then I did 3 years of teaching non-stop, and it was fantastic, that whole journey.
So the entrepreneurial stint we're talking about is Tribe, where Sudeep, your co-founder, now he's the founder of Game Theory.
Yes.
And I think this bit is out there where you guys built again one of the sought after boutique outfits in Bangalore.
Yes.
And then it got acquired by Cult,
Mukesh,
right?
Yeah.
Mukesh and Ankit and all. So talk to me about that entrepreneurial experience, because that also is not a typical middle class template, right?
Yes.
I mean, again, the girl from Kundapur who went to the banking and then fitness training. What were the first-hand challenges you felt now you feel confident about going and solving? Back then, you didn't have the mental models to solve that.
Yeah. So I'll start with this part where, I got approached by him, right? Like he came and told me, I'm a few years older to Sudeep as well. And when he told me about this, I was like, this sounds really tough. And I don't even know if I have it in me to do something like that monetarily and honestly, I must tell you this as well, that I think my confidence level was very low until like fitness came into my life, right? As a person, not someone who can confidently go and talk or in public or even this. Generally, confidence level was low. And when I started doing the Zumba thing and all of that, it started building up. But it really built up when I incorporated strength training into my life.
So I want to pause you there. Yeah. This is very interesting because I've started noticing this parallel. But do you think that's this is driving a lot? I mean, people around you, do you think that because they bring the fitness element, there is an element of reinventing themselves, building that confidence?
I totally believe in it, Dilip. And I always want to give my own example. And I'll just give you one example here. For all my college life, right? I studied right here in Jyotinivas in Bangalore. All my college life, I was conscious. I was conscious not just about the way I spoke. I was conscious about, the fact that I was short. I was conscious of so many things. Although everyone else didn't like make it obvious or bully me or anything, I was just conscious without being bullied. And I would always make an effort to be in heels all the time. I'm like, I want to be tall. I want to look tall. You know what I mean? Make extra effort in these things. Cut to, this whole fitness came into my life. I've become a different person. It's like, I don't know how to walk in heels anymore, literally.
You don't have to, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Because mentally, I've made that switch that I am who I am, and I know, what I'm capable of, and nothing needs to be shown by the way I dress or what I wear, and, whether I speak the best English. No. There's certain things you can do in just the way you are. And that switch for me happened because and only because of fitness, nothing else. It happened far more ever since I started, lifting weights, and strength training for me has made a different switch. It's like women are so strong. Women are, a lot of us, now that I'm a mom, I can say other ways also why we're strong. But in general, I felt that strength come out, from the fact that, because I didn't have that growing up. Like, obviously my parents loved me, but nobody, we didn't have the same kind of confidence the way I'm trying to raise my daughter today. Make her confident right from, that age. We weren't raised like that. So to be conscious and not confident was absolutely allowed.
No, it's great. Just to kind of have that acknowledgement that, and I go back, few weeks back, I wrote something on Twitter saying that, there's some fundamentals which are not taught in school.
Yeah.
One is, what is right to be, what is the right food to eat,
Yeah.
and what is the real good reason why you should move.
True.
Right? People get into sports and very quickly they realize someone is good in sports, and there is a certain affinity towards the people who are really good in sport, and others are just discarded because they feel they can't just make it to the team.
Yeah.
And that just kind of takes away from them the real importance of staying healthy, because now they don't feel that they're part of the team. And eating right, and we know, right? Most of our household, we always say that you should eat vegetables or you should eat, but why would you want to eat vegetables? What is vegetable, right? Is it fiber? Is it protein? So those basics and fundamentals are really not taught. And I hope now things have changed because we have access to a lot of information, but these are again first principles. I believe if they can be brought back on the fundamental education,
correct,
it can make so much of huge change. Simple fact that playing sport is an extracurricular activity, I could never understand why. Why should it be extra?
Yeah,
it just
exactly.
But you can applaud a Virat Kohli or someone or a Roger Federer on television, but if you had to go and do it by yourself or send your own child, that doesn't cut out. Yeah?
Exactly. My dad tells me that you should put my daughter Yona, you should get her to tennis right away, and that whenever she is of the right age to start learning. I said, you want her to become a tennis player. Why didn't you think about that for me?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I used to excel in shot put.
Yeah.
How many women in school excel in shot put? Lifting weights was probably my forte. You never paid attention to that. You know what I mean?
Going back. So, so of the entrepreneurial experience. So, why was that so much tough for you?
Well, I think it was tough. A, of course, the money, right? B, it's a huge decision that, you're going to literally stop everything that you're doing. Again, HSBC was my comfort zone. I quit that, moved away, and briefly it wasn't a happy experience, but then it became one. Now I built another comfort zone. For 3 years, I started building my community, my classes. I had a very strong community of people who came for my classes for 3 full years. They never left me. And now again, I'm moving away from that. But then I sat down and I really thought about it, at 32, 33 at that point. And I'm like, if not now, then when, right? So I sold my house. That was my only asset. I'd bought a house when I was 25 years, when I was working at HSBC, because my dad insisted I do a small investment, and he helped me because he was a banker. So he would, help with the loan and this and that. And I bought that home, and finally, when I sold it many years later for Tribe, to build Tribe, I was like, what else can I do? I'll buy another house maybe if I can. And if I can't, then, we figure things out. And we were lucky because Sudeep's parents were at SBI. So we figured a way to get a collateral-free loan. And women entrepreneurs get some, preference and stuff, right? So we figured a collateral-free loan. I sold my house, put in the money. Said, this is it. Do or die situation. Quite confident because it was in a space in Indranagar where I knew I had some sort of a hold because I taught there. So that initial worry and everything, kind of, my husband sat me down also. He's like, go for it. I'm there and I have a good job. So I can always run the family, even if you don't make any money in the next 2-3 years. And it's just the two of us. So we said, let's do this. And then the next thing you know, we put in all our life savings in there. And I was sitting at supermarkets and cafes and, I would walk behind. If you're like shopping at a supermarket, I would walk behind you and I'll be like, you know what? I have 5 questions for you. Would you be okay to give me answers to
That's
it while you shop?
survey.
It was my market research because we didn't have money for market research. And I got so much data. Basically, I'm trying to understand what's the market for a place like this, how much are people willing to pay and stuff like that. We got enough information. Then when we were ready to build the place was getting built. I sat at a cafe and I sold like 108 memberships. Just sitting at one cafe, calling people, meeting them over coffee, talking to them about this dream place that we're building and what it has. Also, we had a little bit of an edge because there was no other place like this there at that point, this whole group fitness concept. So yeah, it worked. I mean, we launched in 2014. Today, when I look back, I'm like, what were we thinking? I mean, how did we take on a space of 4 lakh rental? I won't do that again.
Yeah. So, it's interesting. I mean, from a trainer to jump into entrepreneurship where it's also not very celebrated in India.
Yeah.
Back then, at least. Now,
Yeah.
of course, it
2014,
is.
yeah.
Also to a very odd space, right? I mean, it's not a technology company or it's not an industrial manufacturing concept. And I think you guys did well. You went through the acquisition. I want to kind of, zero down on those experiences today. And you said, what were you thinking back then? Today, if you had to go back, would you want to be an entrepreneur again?
I'm working on that again.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. So I'll not double click on that. I'm sure there's a lot of exciting stuff which has to come. I mean, you shared few to me, so I'm very excited, and I would want you to tell more. As and when you feel you're ready, but which means you're prepared. But tell me one thing. So now that you're looking back, what are the few things you find yourself different, which you feel makes you even more eager and keen to go back and be an entrepreneur again? Because the first time you did was accidental, you said.
Yeah.
Now it's intentional.
Yes.
The way you were. So what is the new in you which you feel can make you a better entrepreneur now?
I think I've learned more on how to run a business. Back then, a lot was done from the heart, not so much from sitting down and deeply thinking, does this make business sense? But working at Cult, closely with Mukesh, I have learned that a lot, if there were certain things we could do differently, which we're doing today or I learned today at Cult, we would have been more successful during the acquisition than we were. Everything that happened at Tribe was word of mouth. And it was because I was physically present. Sudeep was around. It was high touch. And when you have a space of high touch and good offering, you're bound to be fairly successful. But if I had to make that more successful than it already was, then I'd have to incorporate a lot of what I've learned today on how to actually run a business, right? So first thing, like I said, I would never take up a place of 4 lakh rental. Right? Back then, it's literally 10 years ago. And now if I have to redo, I'll look for a space where I'm not willing to pay more than 2 lakh rent. We weren't even thinking how we were going to pay the overheads, but we did it anyway. And we really worked hard and we made it fairly successful, not super successful, but I would do it all over again and I would learn from all the little mistakes I made to kind of, start small and start more niche and focus deep into health and not just be... See, fitness is just one aspect of health. Then it was all about, go hard or go home. That is not what I would want to do today.
Yeah, so clearly there is a cue in there that the next venture is also going to be health and fitness. You can't expect anything else from you.
Nothing else. I know nothing else.
Yeah. So that's going to be something very exciting to look forward. talk to me about this experience, which is not much spoken, but rather the very few times it's spoken is also kind of sugar coated. That experience of getting into your mid 30s, being a woman entrepreneur, uh, uh, business where it's not outside invested, and then you get this acquisition. Was that moment where you really felt happy that this is something what you were building and let's grab in, or was it a moment of stress that okay, this is a ray of hope, so probably now a better breathing space to think through? What was those experiences which made you take that offer?
I was not happy at all. Acquisition was the last thing on my mind. Even when we started, I wanted to be small. I didn't want to be big and mass and things like that. Which is why I always had the concept of a niche boutique space. But Sudeep always thought big, And of course, with all due respect, it's the right way to approach when you have a business, I guess. And then he was more keen. And for me, like I was saying, all my 20s, I had great memories, but very unpleasant because of, all of that I had to go through with marriage. And all my 30s, most part of my 30s was about, oh my God, we have to keep this business alive. We have to keep this business alive. Happily saying, because I enjoyed what I did, no complaints. Simultaneously, a lot of pressure from the family about you have to have a baby, you have to have a baby, clock is ticking, you can't. So they were like, these two things you're battling with. And then suddenly out of nowhere, this whole, we're building a second tribe. And then the third tribe comes into play within 3 years. And we're like, let's stop. And just when I say, let's stop, let's breathe, let's make the three work really well, there is this acquisition thing comes in. So I wasn't prepared for it at all. Like physically, mentally, emotionally. And that's where Sudeep and I were like, no, we can't. Like, he was like, yes, we should. I was like, no, we cannot. So differences and all of that started coming in. Of course, I mean, that's in the past. Today, we're best of friends.
Yes.
But
workout buddies as well.
yeah. But these were things, I mean,
yeah.
It was finally, I'm like, you know what? This is happening. And then I had these conversations with Ankit, conversations with Mukesh. And the way they spoke so deeply about the vision, you literally are sitting there and you're like, how do you say no to this? So I honestly, even today, I tell Mukesh, I reluctantly went in. It wasn't like a choice it wasn't something that I was looking forward to. Because I knew this was going to be mass, this was going to become corporate. It's amazing because I get to change lives of lakhs of people and no more thousands. But I was not prepared for it at all.
Yeah, I know. I remember thanks to your center in Phoenix, the VR Mall. I was one of the members there.
Yeah.
And I think Vijay was the coach
yes.
back then. And I think I was there for almost a couple of months. And it was a fantastic experience because we made our small group to come by and kind of experience cross-training. But again, that mental model which I want to kind of scrape a little more is that what was a support system? Because now you have a family which is essentially, I'm not sure how keen they were for you to become an entrepreneur, sell your asset, so that you can fund your dreams. And a husband who possibly is working to figure out that, okay, I'll run the bills for home. And you who is possibly always in doubt whether this will get through or not, because that's what I'm sure majority of the entrepreneurs are, because they wake up with this extreme endorphin of ruling the world, and by the end of the day they feel lost and torn because what's happening, right? Nothing is going their way. So what was that fabric around? What was the support system which you had and perhaps didn't have?
I had only one support system. It's my husband and it was me. My parents were very happy for me that I built something that I've now become, in their words, a businesswoman. They were surprised that I was capable of doing something like that. Unhappy about the house. But I think at that point, they also stopped worrying so much about what I was doing from a work point of view. They were more focused on the personal side. And it was really about family and babies. And But I actually, I speak to them every day. I just love them to death. But I think after a point, I stopped looking for anybody else's opinions or suggestions or any of that. I realized if there's this two things that matter: what I feel about the idea and what my partner or my husband feels about it.
Is this a practical toolkit? Because, and I ask this because I feel, do you think that situation to take that decision comes with a certain privilege in a situation in your life that you can make that mental model, or do you think that's practical for all women, regardless of what their background is?
No, it's not practical for all women. Honestly, not, because you have to find that one support system, right? You can't have many. If you have many, you're lucky. But if you don't have even one, it gets that much more tougher. Then you are literally fully on your own. But, knowing that I have, the husband to fall back on, knowing that I took a very calculated risk of taking a collateral-free loan where I won't be paying debts, if things fail. These things are all support systems, right? So the support system can be in other forms as well. But one strong support system can come through your sibling, through your spouse, through your parent, but you need that one. And it's not something that works for all. It's not something that's practical for all. But my experiences from being at HSBC, then at Zella, then being a freelance trainer, then coming here, and from how I've been raised, was that ultimately it needs to make me believe that, okay, I can do this, and I'm going to, put everything I have into it. And that one person who I trust in 100% is saying, yes, you should do it.
Yeah.
And I had that the whole time.
No, I agree. I mean, like I said, often we are mistaken when on social media, when someone has to go out and say a certain perspective of life, people get torn because they find it very hard to apply onto themselves because they don't know what's the context to that perspective. Like you said, in your case, it was easier for you because you had a support system. And therefore, if someone is struggling to find that one support system, they can't perhaps install that perspective in their life. And therefore, then you start questioning whether that perspective is genuine or not, because there's a context, and often at times the context is missing. It's so easy to just go out and say that, and it's everywhere, relevant in every, even for fitness, someone would just go there, I lost 10 kg weight. But then what went behind 10 kg weight, the context people don't know. Right? And that I sometimes feel totally, disturbs people because they admire, and I'm sure many people look up to you in many tangents. And because now they look up to you, they find it that whatever has worked for you, they also want that to work for them. And now it doesn't seem to be working for them, because for Shwetambari it has worked, but it doesn't work for me because I'm doing everything what she's doing, but it still doesn't work for me because that context is missing.
Absolutely. Very well said. Very true.
No, I mean, so the entrepreneurial spirit, right? I mean, you guys had an acquisition, had a certain X growth. Tell me, now when you look back and you are also building out now, you're going back on your entrepreneurial spree, what would be one reason why someone should not look into taking an acquisition, and what should be a one reason someone should take an acquisition? Because you were in a crossroad figuring out both, right? So when you look back in retrospect, what is that you have to share?
Okay. I'll tell you simply from my own example, right? Like everybody, I'm guessing, all startups want acquisition. At least that's so I've been told. Like, you really don't have a startup to not be acquired.
You shouldn't be saying all of this, on camera, because these are the first principles which have been redefined now, right? That is why you build a startup now. Yeah, sadly. Yeah.
Sadly, exactly. Sadly, that is not why I built Tribe. That is not why, Sudeep and I, of course, started off with no such intention, but we had the opportunities, and that's why the acquisition discussion happened. But I know Sudeep, he would love for the business to grow and things like that, and for us to grow simultaneously. But mine was going back to my first class. I am a high touch person. I changed someone's life, and I want to continue doing that. I can do it at a high level, which I did at Cult for the last 7 years, right? Working from the back, creating the formats, the trainers, all of that. But I mean, you should work on acquisition if growing that business means something to you. You know, if that growing that business is going to add value, not just for you, for the business, for the people who you're growing it for, and things like that. If the acquisition is looked at just a monetary transaction, then it is obviously not the right approach. But for me, it wasn't the money. It wasn't the fact that, oh, I'll be able to touch lives of lakhs of people, both of which didn't excite me at all. And today, again, when I recreate another small niche space, with some association with Cult, of course, the goal is to not even think about expansion and acquisition. No. It's going to be a space, again, with high touch, what originally was, and originally has, it's been on my mind, and where I really change people's lives. And it's a personal thing. So one has to be very clear. If you're doing a startup and if you're doing very, very well, doesn't mean that because you're doing very well, you have to be acquired, or you can just stay there continuing to do very well.
So do you think being slow is the new fast?
Is anybody slow today?
Yeah.
Really? I don't think so.
I feel, I feel boredom is the luxury for 21st century. Right? I mean,
I agree.
You just can't get bored.
Yeah.
Right? You constantly have people asking you for your attention, and people I mean is tools, digital tools. You just can't feel bored. You just can't sit idle.
And I'll just quickly add, because I've been kind of I've taken a little bit of a time off, right? Time off as in I do 2 times a week or 3 times a week of work. Because I wanted to spend more time with my little one, but my little one is in school most part of the day. That's a different story. And I've been sitting at home quite idle. I do my work, I have 2-3 days of work, or I do events, I travel, but most other days, it's not like how it used to be before. And a lot of people ask me, I just sit in the swing and I'm just looking around, I'm just swinging. And there are people, including my husband, how are you just sitting so peacefully? How aren't you bored? That's the first word. I mean, we need to know how to really sit down and just be.
I mean, I can't agree more, because I don't know whether it's getting age, because I just turned 40 and I just realized that, pause is a privilege. Taking pause and taking a break.
Yes.
It's just a premium experience, right? Because back in my 30s, I was just constantly rushing running, and I felt staying still and doing nothing is a state of being inefficient, being weak, because you just don't know what to do. And now I feel that it's just a premium experience just to kind of sit down for 10 minutes and do nothing. And just be with yourself, and of course find time to be with your loved ones, whether it's your child or it's your partner. Get your evening tea with them. It's just a premium, priceless experience, which you don't desire when you are in 30s, because your goals are very different, right? But and all of that comes together as because I've been an entrepreneur for most of my life. It was not in the radar, right? That was not the thing. So there's a lot of common dots, like what you just said till now, from upbringing to becoming an entrepreneur, and all those factors, what kind of transpired. I want to shift gears and get into the meat of it, which is who you are today, a sought after fitness evangelist. What was your workout for the morning today?
It was fairly intense. It was many rounds of toast to
High
bar and
intensity, yeah.
power cleans and getting assaulted on the assault bike.
So what's a typical daily routine right now in terms of your fitness system?
It's fully changed post the baby, because before the baby I was an evening workout person, and now I've shifted to early morning. My entire circadian rhythm has changed, and I'm guessing this is permanent for life. 5 in the morning is when I start. 5:30, 5:40 I'm at the gym. I leave the gym by 7:45 because I do a lot of work. 8, and then I believe in social health a lot. And like after workout, a bunch of us sit down for like 20 minutes, have a coffee.
Or a protein shake?
Yeah. It's either a black coffee and protein shake or something like that. And we just talk. We talk about what transpired at the gym. We talk about what's each of our days looking like. We talk about the best documentary to watch. We just talk anything and everything for 20, 30 minutes, and it really sets the tone for the day. And because I have great support system at home, I don't have to rush back. Oh, my baby is at home. No, it's kind of sorted out for me. So I'm lucky there. And then go home, and if she's around, say bye-bye to her, she goes to school. Then that's how I start my day, my first good breakfast after 12, 13 hours of fasting. And then you pick up the laptop. Life has slowed down a lot right now since the last 3-4 months. I'm not in a rush to do anything anymore, and I'm loving this space. Honestly, Dilip, I wanted to retire at 40, right? But then, of course, I had a baby at 40, so that's a different story.
So you could retire tomorrow now.
Actually. And I'm like, isn't 20 years of slogging enough for anybody? I actually started 21, and I'm like, right up till 40, I was slogging, and I worked really hard, and everyone around me knows that. So, and I wasn't imagining to work so hard. My life was supposed to be study so much, work if you want to, marry, have babies, have 3 dogs, and just live life. I wasn't ambitious ever. I'm not ambitious even today, which is why the whole acquisition, lots of money doesn't excite me. I mean, it's coming because you worked hard for it, I guess, but
Yeah.
slow is who I am. Old school is who I am. But none of that is really kind of.
So, so do you work out all through the week, or you have a certain
I work
system?
out 6 days a week. Okay. Sometimes it's 7. I take it slow when my body tells me just go easy. But I'm active. I'm doing stuff around the house. I walk around a lot. If nothing, I roll the mat out in my garden and do some mobility or yoga along with my daughter. She gets excited about it. But I'm generally very, very active. And when I have to go buy some stuff, when I go out, I walk. I don't take an auto or a cab. At least if it's within 3-4 kilometers, I walk. Anything beyond that, then you take a transport.
So has there been a change, I'm sure there has been change, but is there a significant change to your fitness routine pre-pregnancy to now?
No, now it's all pretty much the same, except the time. I do all the same stuff. In fact, I feel like I've gotten stronger for whatever reason. I don't know. I think motherhood itself makes you stronger. Again, I feel like it's a mental, emotional shift that translates to physical strength as well. Like it happened with my heels to no heels, becoming a very confident and a very self-sufficient person. Otherwise, I think I always needed that validation from, people around, friends, family. Now I don't need any validation. I'm like...
So you speak a lot about functional fitness. So for layman people, especially for women, what is functional fitness?
It's what we do at home, Dilip. It's like, when we do a lot of household chores, from sweeping to mopping to washing utensils to... If you don't do it at home, you do it at the gym, except that in the gym you're doing it with equipments, and in the house you're doing it with stuff in the house. That's the only thing, which is why it was named functional, because it is what your body is functionally supposed to do: bend, squat, lift, things like that. But because we're all sitting on the chair all day and not moving, we're doing a lot of functional fitness in the gym. And my advice to everyone, whenever even in my book, which is called Get Moving, right? I'm like, you don't want to go to the gym? Don't go. It's totally okay. But can you at least move more often? And that's enough.
Now, for in a world where, I mean, by saying that, I'm sure you might probably have jeopardized a lot of blue collar jobs, all maids and cooks who probably might feel irrelevant because if everyone are supposed to do what they're doing because they're moving. But I mean, on a casual note, in a world where we are used to outsource a lot, we are used to click the button so that things comes to you, then you going. How practically is being functional now?
Dilip, you and I both know that it's not in the world, it's really in India. We in India are getting highly pampered with lots of people to help us at home, right from nannies to helps to everything, Swiggy to Dunzo. These things are not available in all over the world, right? Like I see my sister's life in New York and it's far more tougher than mine because she doesn't have help. She doesn't, I mean, they can order in, but it's far more expensive. So that she might as well just walk to the supermarket and buy the stuff and come back. So I feel like in India, our lives have become super luxurious, except the roads and traffic, everything is luxury for us.
Yeah, but then what is the practical, what I'm trying to say is because now you said pampered, we've been layered with the so-called convenience that you click a button and things will come to you to an extent where, nothing, I mean, not bad-mouthing about, but, you essentially have an on-demand help. People concede services, people are taking from point A to point B. There's so much just for 10, 20 extra bucks, right? So the movement, again, it just become a very forgotten activity, right? You just don't have to move. You can just be on your couch probably for your entire waking hours and you can get everything done, right? Yes. What could be a practical, and I ask this not just from someone who is evangelist, but someone who is now probably doing it for herself in terms of the functional aspect, right? What could be the functional element right now which someone could start doing it?
Just, I'll tell you what I do. I mean, I have the help also because the help is there and you need the help. I just very, very consciously get up every 1 hour. That's all I do. No matter where I am. If I'm sitting at home or if I'm in the office, if I'm, like right now I can't get up, but I just get up every 1 hour without fail. I walk around for 5 to 10 minutes. And it could be to fetch something, to go to the washroom, something. But it's a habit now. Right? I can't sit for long. Like I'll just get up and stand if I have to, if I'm in a meeting. But that's the only solution for all of us who have the kind of jobs we have and who have the kind of help we have where we don't have to move a morsel, right? Which is what I request everyone, like whether it's on social media or wherever, I tell people, just move. And movement does not mean you're expected to do household chores. I'm saying, can you walk for 10 minutes after your meals? Right? Can you walk for like 5 minutes every 1 hour? And this is what a physiotherapist also tells you. That, you have a job, you have a sitting job, you're sitting down in front of the laptop, all okay. Get up every hour, walk for 5-10 minutes, and you'll see a world of a difference.
Yeah. No, I would strongly urge everyone watching and listening to look you up. You've been there for TEDx, and I think there's an interesting piece where you're speaking about the testament to your mobility where you do deep squat, right? Squat. And I felt it's just so underrated, but it just, again, a very basic first principle test to find out what your fitness is, right? If you, at the age of 30, you just can't do a deep squat, that's a huge kind of, red signal to yourself that your future is going to be doomed.
Yeah, fully agree. And I think this for me comes from the fact that I am a villager. I've used the ground toilet for a long time. I've seen my mom and dad and my grandparents sit in a deep squat comfortably. So for me to not be able to sit or see someone else who cannot sit shocks me. But I realize it's just a lifestyle. And none of us really have a ground toilet at home. But I'm like, even if you don't have, I practice it even like your morning chai or morning newspaper or play with because your toddlers, I mean, if you notice the babies, you have one, they are naturally in that position, right? That's why we are naturally supposed to be able to sit in that position. And that's where all the problems start, because you're first losing your ankle mobility, that transfers to knee, that transfers to hip. And then you have all the back issues, the posterior chain problems, glutes are tight, hamstrings are tight, injuries begin. And that's where you...
No, yeah, thank you. I mean, I think, again, going back to what's out there in social media, because in today's world, there's so much of science and pseudoscience and a lot of bro fitness out there where people just get confused what is right and wrong. And I think the takeaway here should be that functional is anything which just kind of makes you move in the most authentic and the genuine way. We just keep moving and keep just doing stuff, right?
I want to add, I read this book, The Story of the Human Body by Daniel Lieberman, right?
Yeah.
You know what he says in that? And he's talking about evolution, right? How ancestors and how we are today and how fast-paced we're going. While we're not supposed to be going that fast, we don't have a choice but go with the times. He's like, the one thing that every human being must do is walk 10 kilometers a day. And it should not be too much effort. It should naturally happen. 10 kilometers. 10 kilometers is nothing. It's just about 10,000 steps, which we're all talking about on social media and everywhere, right? It's a thing that we're talking and promoting today, but it's naturally what is supposed to happen.
Yeah, and I strongly recommend his book, Exercised. I mean, it just speaks so much about breaking this pseudoscience around not being very fascinated by 10,000 steps on your calorie burnt. You just keep moving the most natural way. And I think people are constantly looking for shortcuts, and people are constantly looking, and I'm sure you probably might get a ton of DM asking you for tips and how to do this and how to lose that, and we just kind of forget that the basics, what we need to do are the things which are forgotten. That is, move as much as possible. Whether it's go out and getting your groceries, you, instead of doing online shopping, you can just move and lift it and come back. And these are things which naturally everyone can do. It's just a choice. It's the gap between your desire and a commitment, whether you want to do that or not, right? I want to go back. You said you lift weight. Why is it important for women to lift weights?
Women are more prone to loss of muscle and bone starting in 40s, basically, before we hit menopause, and after hitting menopause, it's even faster. Men also go through the loss of, bone density, muscle mass, but women go through a lot more, and then you get hit by osteoporosis and arthritis and all of that. Though one of the only ways to age gracefully is preserve your muscle mass, right? All of us have enough muscle. It deteriorates as we age. If you want to maintain that, and you want to improve that, the only way is strength training, resistance training, or weight training. So many names for it. I'll just give you my mom's example, right? Super active all her life. She's literally someone who I've watched and learned how to be active all the time. But today, she has balance issues. She's weak legs, finally diagnosed with Parkinson's. I'm not saying that you can't have, certain kind of lifestyle issues coming if you're super active or not. If you're predisposed to something, you can try your best, but it can come to you. But if I had actually helped her focus a little bit on strength training, she would today have a little more, more muscle mass, more balance, more coordination. She lacks all that because her activity was just do a lot of household chores and walk from one place to another constantly. So we sometimes most often look at our parents and then say, oh, they didn't do it, but they are fine. They're fine. Then the question is, until what age are they going to be fine, and what age they start becoming heavily dependent because of pains and falls and all of those. To avoid all that and to age gracefully, I tell women that you must lift weights. And it's personally helped me. My injury that happened because of excess cardio, I came out of it because of strength training, right? And today, my muscle mass and everything is, higher than even before because I know I'm in my 40s and it's now or never.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and interesting as you speak, I was just trying to touch upon, it's a very great metric to define your fitness quotient that you can grace.
Yes.
You can age
Yeah.
gracefully, right? Because most of the time, again, we have kind of layered with metrics where you're constantly chasing number of calories you have to burn, or the weights you want to drop, or the packs you want to build, right? But no one is really kind of thinking from a longevity point of view, and no one is thinking from a very organic and a natural point of view,
Yeah.
that when you are at 60, 70, 80,
What do you want to do?
you're not supposed. I don't know. I mean, some people still could, but you are not doing a deadlift of 100, 120 kg. But can you still get your 10-kilometer of walk?
Yeah.
Can you bend?
Yeah.
Can you just sit naturally? And
Cross-legged
cross-leg.
maybe, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that really comes back from these fundamentals, right? Work on your flexibilities and your mobility. So I think that's a great way to put it out, to say that could be your metric for fitness.
Exactly. And someone actually asked me just 2 days ago when I put up some video, I was doing a 100 kg hip thrust.
Wow.
Okay. And this lady asked me, she's like, why do you have to do it? Is it really necessary? And then I explained to her why I am doing it and why everybody doesn't need to do it. But can you at least do 10 kg? Forget 100. 100 is my goal. And the last 10 years I've taken to come to 100 kg. Don't do 100. Can you do 10? She's like, absolutely right. She's like, I do light weights, but when I see you lift so heavy, I'm wondering if all women need to lift heavy. I said, no, that's not the message here. Amazing if you can lift heavy, but lift light, lift often, lift weights. That's it.
Yeah, I think, very good, interesting. But because I think, again, that context of what took you to 100 kg and your vision for yourself in terms your fitness longevity is very different from everyone else, and everyone need not do 100 kg, and they could just start with a 10 kg, 20 kg and say, I'm good for that, and you just keep doing that, right?
Perfect. Yeah. That's what we're talking about.
But and I mean, you are also sought after in social media, I would imagine. Don't you, when naysayers come and say that lifting weights would change the structure for women in particular, you will beef up. How do you address them? What is the science to that?
The science is just this, Dilip, that we don't have the same testosterone as men do. So even if I want to, I'll have to probably take steroids, to look like that, like bulk up and look like a Hulk or something like that. We have more estrogen, and there's no way we're going to bulk, right? No matter how much. I mean, this is a muscular me. I don't think I can get any more. You know what I mean? Like I'll probably look just this much, and I'll have to really do some stuff with food and drugs to look any bigger. So there's no way a woman can look very bulky. But the thing with women, most women, is they want to look lean at all times. That's size 0 lean. And that is not, I would say, that's not the healthiest. But if you can preserve your muscle mass and still look lean, then good for you. You figured that out. But if you're someone who's going to lift weights, you're going to have some tone. And that's okay, right? So women do not have the same testosterone as men do, so they can never look bulky.
They carry the tone with pride.
Yeah, I do.
Right?
Totally.
Because, I mean, this is, I'm glad you are speaking that out, because that's coming from someone who is lifting heavy weights and admitting that that's the max you could look in terms of your structure, right? So, and I was asking this in specifically because when I see online, I see this genuine concern coming perhaps from women who are not having that access to a certain information or access to science, what perhaps you and me have, who are always scared that, look, what if I do this and I go and pick up a dumbbell or I walk into a gym, would that destroy my appearance? Right? And they're not looking again from a functional point of view that, okay, that's the strength what you want.
Exactly, because my chiropractor tells me whenever I go to him for my spine health and etc., he's like, you have a spine of a 19-year-old, right? My body composition, my body age is of a 31-year-old, and I'm a 43-year-old woman, right? And you can only achieve all this with good muscle mass, low fat, high muscle, and this comes with lifting consistently. right? And if you have a good spine, which is the core of everything, you know you will age gracefully,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. So brilliant. I mean, that's, I wanted that to be out and loud.
Yeah.
But I mean, as we speak there, so you are someone who won, you were third in the India CrossFits.
Yeah.
Right?
Third fittest in CrossFit Open 2017.
17, right? So you were the third fittest woman in India in CrossFits. Tell me very specifically about what was the training
Yeah.
build up for that particular regime.
So,
And how old were you then?
when 2017, 37.
Okay, so
I
that's
was
not
37.
typically a prime or ideal age for you to there, and you still made it, right?
Yeah.
That,
Correct,
right? So that was also an
Because-
odd
Yeah.
person, right? In
Yeah.
terms of your age. I mean,
Age
I'm sure
group wise, yes.
your competitors might be much
Age group
younger.
wise, I was one.
Okay.
They have age categories
Yeah.
also.
But open category, you
Overall,
were third.
Open, I was
So
a
your
three.
competition probably might be a little bit younger to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mostly younger
Yeah.
because not many women at this age do CrossFit. It's a handful. There are in other countries, but in India, there are barely any women at this age who do so much CrossFit. Most of them are younger. It took me about 1 to 2 years of religiously practicing CrossFit, which means I did it daily. And it took me about 1.5 years of eating with a proper nutrition plan as per my nutritionist. I mean, I go to Ryan Fernando. He is, even till date, like postpartum also, I went to him, and someone I swear by. Just eating right and daily practice is what got me there. And I realized my strength when I first attempted CrossFit at age 35. 35, yeah, 2015, when this was a year after our first center was on and I started practicing CrossFit because Sudeep had already done his certification, right? So he was coaching and I was practicing. And that's when I'm like, wow, I can lift heavy. I need to do this more. That's when I realized my potential, my strength. I want to now go into certain competitions at a very local level also, but it needs more time and effort. So I haven't planned it.
What
fully yet.
was it a very scripted plan on your radar that you're going to compete, or it just came by and you just kind of?
The first time I did it, which is 2016, it just came by and I did it and I did fairly well and I was excited about it. Then I said, I'm going to make a conscious effort to put, more time into this sport. So the next year when I did it, then I emerged third fittest.
What was the intangible benefits you got after finding yourself at the podium?
I think it is just more mental than anything else.
And it stuck for you for long, or was it a little short-lived?
No, it's still there. Like, I feel good to have had. I've done a lot of little stints with so many different brands, different people, different things. But these things, I mean, it's a 5-week competition. It's not like a one-time thing. Every week you're attempting a different workout. So it challenges your endurance, your mobility, your lifting capacity, your gymnastic capacity, everything, right? And it really, like, people around me started looking at me very differently. The respect changed, and it just makes you feel so good. Like, you're not being looked at for what you've achieved, maybe from a career point of view or a family point of view. You're just being looked at, respected for your sport.
A very unique identity.
Yeah. Sport and fitness has been close to my heart since childhood, but I couldn't, I actually teased my dad today that if you had allowed me and given me the right direction, I'd have probably won a medal for the country. That's how passionate I am about.
Probably we would have another Mary Kom.
You're kind. But yeah, I mean, honestly, it's I still wish I can do something and I'm going to pursue it.
So now when you go back and you have this pursuit, are you looking at from participation point of view? Or are you looking from a competition point of view?
I'd like to look at it from a competition point of view. I think I'm a little competitive that way, not being a CEO or anything. That is never been an ambition. But in sports, I've realized I am competitive. In fact, even in the morning when we work out together, all of us, like Sudeep looks at me and he's like, we're only working out. You don't have to race. Yeah. It's just it's a nice adrenaline and it feels good.
So do you think that always works in your favor, or it also sometimes kind of doesn't work in your favor, being that extra competitive?
Doesn't, because then you're like, suddenly something pulls here, there, then you're like, okay, I'm 43, I gotta slow down. I mean, you have to remember you're growing old, so you can't keep pushing the boundaries. So
what was in your so I know, I understand that. I mean, as you grow, you also need to understand those limits, and I think that also comes naturally from that ability to take pause, because now you know that when you need to pause, and very important, because that's also a thing which I've seen with extremely health conscious individuals, that they always need to go out and grind, and like you were saying earlier, really go hard or go home mentality, and now just totally okay. I mean, there are days where I just don't feel like running. I just don't want to do anything. I just want to sit down and probably read a book or spend time with my family. But then there are other days when I might be training. I'm in the peak training. I have to do that for the sake of getting the training consistency on. I just go and do it. So that judgment of what to do, what not to do comes beyond your variables. It's it's just internal. You have to take
absolutely.
that call.
And I think, but for me, honestly, Dilip, I think I'm yet to get to that space, because a part of me wants to take breaks on and off, but then a bigger part of me only can function with that routine, that morning movement. You know what I mean? And I feel like sometimes I pressure myself with it, that, oh my God, I didn't work out this morning. Oh my God, I didn't move this morning. How's my day going to be? I'm yet to get out of that phase. It's like this last evening, I was telling you earlier about my thyroid fluctuation post-delivery, post-pregnancy, right? My husband was like, why didn't you take 1 week's break and just like sleep in, relax, do whatever you want? I'm like, I can't function without a workout. And when you have these thyroid fluctuations, the right thing to do would be is take it a little slow, because people with thyroid and etc. shouldn't be going too hard. So I'm yet to kind of slow down there. I've slowed down with my career, but not slowed down with...
I think, it will come with time, because there would be moments when you would know for sure that you have to take a pause. And I'm sure you have done that. I think it's just one of those phases where you got to figure this out. I think one of the very important aspects which I want to kind of connect with the physical fitness, two important one is nutrition and mental. But on the nutrition side, very important question. What was on your breakfast plate today morning?
Today was simple. Overnight oats, lots of seeds and nuts, and mango and banana, and a protein shake.
So do you still follow a certain template of what's good or bad? Or I mean, so what's your relationship with nutrition as such? Is it like burn calories and get whatever into your system, or you're very definitive about what it is?
No, I'm particular about what goes into my system. I treat food as medicine, honestly. Like, I know food can heal, but I also work out so much, or rather so consistently, to be able to enjoy my life. I don't want to be deprived. I don't want to say that, oh, I cannot eat this piece of cake, or I cannot have my beer, cannot have my glass of wine. No, I mean, we all need to live a little. We need to do things that make us happy. And if it means sitting out on a Saturday evening socially and enjoying a couple of beers and having some onion rings, it's okay. So be it, right? And you're not doing it every day. You're doing it once a week, once in 2 weeks. I'm totally for eat what you enjoy, not every day, but make your meals, healthy meals, also as delicious as you can, so that you enjoy and you don't feel like crap when you're eating it, which is why I ensure that my healthy meals are driven by my culture, okay, where I still have my Kundapur boiled rice with fish curry. I don't move away from those basics. I still love my dosa, idli. The oats is good for you, so you just add into your thing, and it's easy. But I do not believe in going on any sort of diets and deprivation and all that. I'm like, eat moderately, eat how much your body needs, have fun, but just consistently move.
Is it very practical and easy, as you say, for someone who is juggling with a 9 to 6 job, has a kid to go and take care of, and also perhaps still sitting on the fringe to figure out that do I exercise or do I do yoga or do I just sit and just have a mental relaxation?
Dilip, honestly, it's very easy.
Okay.
I mean, if you can simply do a little bit of meal prep. See, the truth is, Indian food needs far more cooking. We're not the kind of people who will put food into the oven and say, bake and I'll get work done and come. You're at the, you're cooking that food. Indian food is still a little more complex. But my point is that if you have that intention and the goal, then you can meal prep. I have a lot of friends who meal prep Indian khana. They like prep it, put it in the fridge for 2-3 days and on a Sunday, and then kind of again on a midweek they redo it. It's really about the intention. And you can keep it simple. A plate of raw veggies, a side of dal, and if you're a non-vegetarian, add that non-veg and a little bit of rice. It's really, really simple. I feel like we just make like this just too much shoo-ha about food, but nutrition doesn't have to be complex, especially if you're eating culturally, what you end up eating, what you've grown up eating. Don't make it a big deal.
Yeah.
Just understand that you need to add protein in every meal because that is the building block.
No.
Right?
Yeah, important.
Protein in breakfast, protein in lunch, protein in dinner, along with your carbs and fat, and you're sorted.
Yeah, I think one of the most perennial problems in the Indian, the diet palette system is that we are very, very carb dominant.
Yeah,
So therefore, what most of us and most of what we are putting into the system is very carb oriented, which kind of makes us away and elude us from the proteins.
Yes.
And we and this is fundamental science that protein has to be a dominant kind of portion of yourself. Yes. So if you can just figure that part out, like you said, basis on your palate, your diet choices, your cultural nuances, you really don't have to go unless someone is again clinically have some clinical issues, but no one has to really sit on the edge and keep procrastinating. And it's a diet which is going to solve. It's again just basics of getting and going back to the original point. I mean, I wish if this could be taught in school, right? Because this is what we are fundamentally missing to say what should be our lunchbox.
Exactly, but you know what? This is something I've seen with my 3-year-old. Of course, I'm teaching her these things at home, how to eat right and what to eat. And I also try to tell her right now why is she eating that food. She may not understand everything, but maybe some things. But one of the reasons why I put her into the daycare/school that she's in is by looking at the menu. I saw what they're giving her. They give simple homemade food. They make it in the kitchen there. Dal, rice, sabzi, curd, one fruit every day, a different fruit every day. No packaged foods, no, those drinks that come in cartons, none of that. And I'm like, she should go here because they understand nutrition. And eating that and eating at home, which is so similar, she will start. There is nothing sweet that they give. On a Friday, they will give her like a chocolate pancake or a laddu. It's like Friday because it's end of school and then you come back only on Monday. I so appreciate that concept. Like at home, her cupcake only comes on a weekend. So she's associated something sweet and a chocolate is either on a birthday or on the weekend. She's associated screen time either on a weekend or maybe when we go out for a dinner when the adults want to chat, I'll get my screen. So even if my point was that even if they're not teaching in school, which I think is not going to happen in few more years, I feel like we just need to start that at home very consciously. I see a lot of parents who the first food that goes into a baby's system after 6 months, right? We do that annaprashan. Why should it go with something mixed with sugar? Ragi porridge with sugar in it. The child has no idea what taste means.
WHO says that, I don't know if many people, and it's probably the Indian moms wouldn't agree to it. WHO says that you shouldn't put any form of sugar inside a child at least till 18 to 24 months.
Exactly.
It just destroys their, in so many ways, right?
I agree. I fully agree.
Right? And but again, I mean, our culture is such a way when you have to go and take a fight. And you're so right. One of the most common patterns I've seen in all the guests so far, and they speak about it, is that everything starts at home because they are taking time out to exercise. They are taking time out to eat right. It just trickles down to their kids, and therefore they're learning. And it's very odd to expect your child to do something which you're not doing yourself. And that just doesn't bode well, right? So if you're exercising, the kid is watching you. My son sees me working out. He sees his mom working out, and therefore he knows what exercise is. And the other day, he was doing the downward dog position, right? And now if I ask him to do and now if I ask him to do a butterfly stretch, he does a butterfly stretch. He does squats. Just because when I am doing squats, I ask him, hey, let's do squats. And I saw one of your videos where you're working out, and
she does everything.
She's also working out. It's just a very natural education for them.
Exactly. Right? It becomes a routine. Like you're brushing. Okay, after brushing, I'll go work out. It's just a routine. And
no, I think the biggest support, and I say this now because I was not someone with the same thought process back then, was that the biggest investment one can do for their child's future is becoming healthy. Right? Because if you're healthy, you're there with them anytime they want. And they're not going to appreciate anything beyond that. I mean, the wealth and all is okay, but when they're 30, 35 and you are perhaps, I don't know what the longevity could be, that wealth won't cut out anything for them, but they're going to really remember the walks and the swims, all that what you could do as they were growing old.
I couldn't agree more, it's so true. Like, it's just, these are the meaningful things you'll teach them. And I feel like every parent should get their child into at least one sport. And it should not become the extracurricular activity. It should become a main activity. And the child will figure out what sport they really enjoy playing. And you just have to watch and listen and learn. But one sport, and teach them how to eat right. And I'm telling you, we'll have the next generation is going to be a much smarter, healthier generation. And that's what we will need, really.
Okay, so Shwe, I want to change the gear and talk about a topic which is also glad it's been well discussed and spoken today, which is mental health. But more from a very personal perspective, because mental health could mean different for different people. So in your case, there are two topics which I want to touch upon. One is, because now you're very sought after on social media, people look on to you because they want that inspiration for themselves, men, women, to go out and get the workout done, get the inspiration to eat right because you're telling them what you're eating and what perhaps is good for you and what is good for others. Is there a certain pressure on you to stay relevant and stay out there? Because, people are looking up to you now.
I would lie if I say no, right? Because it's there. It's not, a pressure that's going to drown you or kill you, obviously. But maybe this is why I was telling you earlier that if I want to stop, I don't know, something tells me that I cannot stop. Maybe it's this voice that tells me, like, you may not want to go for a workout and you end up going because you, want to be consistent, but you're not being consistent just for yourself. You're also being consistent for a few other people who are looking at you for that consistency. So I feel, yes, there is some sort of, but it's really what you do with it. Like, you can get fully, stressed with that pressure, or you can say, you know what, this is probably good pressure to have, and you work around it. But social media is I really have a good community there. I know there are social media, there are people with communities which are, people troll and they get rude and nasty and things like that. I have a very nice community, people who, there is like a connection, there's a lot of love and peace and, that kind of a community. So I love being there, honestly. Like, I feel like I get great energy from the people who are connected with me there, and I'm giving great energy. So I love being there. I'm not complaining, but some sort of pressure is there.
So that pressure, do you feel that also takes take something out from you being in the moment, because
Yeah.
and I say this because one is the pictorial presence what someone has to go. A certain platform behaves different, like Instagram is very graphical, is very pictorial. Twitter would be more textual, and TikTok could be something else, which means that while you're enjoying a moment, you have to capture that because you feel that that could be a very good story.
I'll give
for
you
tomorrow.
the example also, right? Forget me. A lot of people today have very sweetly told me that we are on your profile to see your daughter. Okay. And because I've been putting a lot of content about her, she's kind of funny. Okay. She does these funny things. She says these funny things. She has this very weird accent, which is super funny and cute. And I capture a lot of those things. And she has this habit of picking like a shoe or anything and making it a phone, right? And she has like this really amazing conversations where she pauses to listen. It's basically a lot of fun. So I put a lot of this content, and so many people, especially women, have come back and said, we come back to your stories over and over again to watch your daughter because that has become a stress buster for us. And now I feel like I'm supposed to do this every day to help some people bust their stress.
But isn't that too much of pressure? Because that, I don't know, I mean, is that taking away your moment with...
It has many times, because sometimes I do it and I'm like, she's doing something and I take my phone off and she's like, Mama, put your phone away, and she says it and I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? And I stop myself, but it kind of happens over and over again. I think it's something I need to learn to kind of draw a line. But honestly, at this point, it's happening and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if it's going to be bad for her. Like, I've really tried to limit her screen time, limit her eating nonsense. I hope this side of me doesn't she's already very comfortable with camera. You know what I mean? Like, if I put the video on, if I'm saying something and she'll jump in and she's willing to talk. I don't even know if it's a good thing, bad thing, what, but I do feel that pressure that I feel like, oh my God, someone out there is waiting to see something that Yona has done, which is going to make them smile. So I feel like, I don't know, I don't owe them, but I feel like maybe I'm responsible for that smile.
Yeah. But do you think for who you are today, it will be possible for you to also slow down on the social presence, because the growth also comes with how people more and more find about you and get to know more about you, right? I mean, it's just kind of a parallel identity.
Yeah. No,
right?
yes, of course.
It will be challenging.
I should. It will be challenging, but I think it's something I should be doing for my own sanity. And she's going to start growing up and realizing these things, and she may not be very happy about it. And then I just shouldn't be doing it. I think the side that I really want to portray is not trying to say how you need to, raise your child. No, it's my first. I'm also learning. But more on the food side, like, people really ask me a lot of questions on how do you feed her? How does she eat without any fuss? How is she eating on her own? So there are a lot of those kind of questions. So I try to showcase those things. But I think it can be a little detrimental, and I need to kind of figure how to balance this out, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought of it when you said all that, and I'm like, it can go any direction.
I try to put this in the mental side of it, because often, the experiences what we share, often the actions what we do essentially welcomes the mental stress and mental health issues, and they might be for whatever reasons, but when we take a pause and then we realize that what is working and what is not working, and people kind of go out and recalibrate and kind of see what is working for them. And I wanted to ask this in particular because you are in a situation where you're seeing the pro and con both, and therefore you can weigh it from both the lens. So quickly, the other piece which I felt could be of real value for people is the fact that you have said out in public that for the longest time you were not keen, or you were not it was not in your radar to have an extended family. And then you became a mom. Now Yona is 3-year-old. What was that experience like? And I want you to be very, very specific, because we have to accept, no matter how progressive or a liberal society we are, women are looked upon in a certain way where you have to look good till the time you get married, and after that the goal is that you need to have a kid, and post that
It's
you
forgotten.
perhaps are not importance to most of the people around you. You're lucky if your partner still is an exception, but for a majority of people around you, the child is now a priority, right? Now, what made you take the decision late in your life to do that?
This, I have to tell you this, and I haven't told you this before, obviously. So I spent all my 30s just with career, right? Building tribe, acquisition, then building cult with the whole team. It was wonderful because then you just saw success, success, success. Somewhere at the back of mind, there was this child playing in my head, right? Like there was this need to have a baby because I've already always felt like, yes, I was going to have one, two, three. I actually imagined four in my 20s. Now it's just one. But then in 2019, I had a very, very near fatal dengue attack. Okay. And it was really nasty to an extent where it came to 3,000 platelet and I had to have immediate transfusion. Otherwise, it was quite scary. And I came out of that. And then while I was recovering at home, and I was like, okay, what am I doing with my life? How much should one grow in their career? What does a profession mean to you if this is what it comes down to, where you really don't have control over a lot of things? Because until then, everything was beautiful. You're happily married, you have a great business and everything is going great. And then I sat my husband down and I'm like, look, I'm going to be 40, but now is the time to make that decision because I feel like this was a very difficult experience of, being at the hospital for so long and stuff like that. And I think I kind of want to slow down and I want to really try and see if we can. We didn't speak about babies all these years really. So, and he was fully against it. He was like, no, like we can't change our lifestyles now. And with all good intention, he's like, look, you have a life set, I have a life set. We can't like disrupt it at 40. My mom somewhere still had hopes though. Finally, yes, we took a holiday, I managed to convince him somehow. And I think I again owe everything to my health. I managed to keep myself fit and healthy that without any trouble, I conceived and then COVID happened. And of course, I had the baby. But that whole, the journey of that pregnancy also, he had a lot of doubts in his mind, even through that pregnancy. Like I was very excited about it that, oh my God, I'm 40 and without I thought it will be tough, but it happened. We did all the tests necessary before, are we even, in the right space?
Biologically, you're ready, yeah.
To have a baby, and all of these tests came positive. So we're like, okay. But through the pregnancy, he was in a very different space. He wasn't sure if we're doing the right thing, not. He enjoyed the moment, but he didn't enjoy it like the way I did. He was still a little afraid. But of course, the baby happened, and then I was lucky enough to not have any difficulty and so on and so forth. Now, of course, post-pregnancy, I do see some, my thyroids are all acting up, which I never had before. I'm just thinking it's also the age and, etc. But I think I'm really happy I made that decision, no matter how late in my life, because I really have a new meaning to life now, both of us, and it's truly the best decision. It was easy for us, fortunately, but it's not something that I'm going to publicly say should be an option for everyone. Sure. Yeah. Because honestly, I'm a little old school that way. And if I had to be able to reverse certain things, then I would have probably done it a few years sooner, primarily because if you want to have the second one, then you still want a little bit more, age in hand. Now I feel like I want a second one, but I feel like it's too tiring to go through a second one. But if I had it in my early 30s, I probably wouldn't have said it's going to be so tiring. So, yeah.
No, so interesting you say that, because I think people have different priorities and different choices to kind of pursue their,
Yes.
design their life to be. I mean, like you said, you could be only lucky if there is no
Yeah.
complication. But someone who has gone through, what are the toolkits you could have for young late 20s or early 30s who is now juggling with this confusion that whether they want to be things which you probably would want to tell them to consider, keep in mind in terms of how to weigh your choices,
Yeah.
whether you should be or where you should not be.
Yeah.
Apart from, of
For-
course, the medical test and all of that.
Yeah, of course. No, see, the first thing is a lot of women today, I have noticed women who I've spoken to, including my sister, very clear that, they don't want to even think of having babies and they love their job and career so much that they're very happy focusing on that and they don't want. So if you're extremely clear, right, you don't have to revisit that thought, But if you are in that place where I was, where I had it playing at the back of my head and I knew I want to, but I don't want to, then you got to, and all this is for people in their 20s, early 30s, try to be as healthy and fit as possible. A, keep a track of your menstrual cycle, most important. Because if your menstrual cycle is messed up, chances are that your pregnancy is your conception is not going to happen. Pregnancy will also become tough and everything else becomes tough because that is the key for a woman, right? For conception. And of course, then the partners is a different story, right? But for a woman, it's very important to identify, ensure, because 1 in 10 women today have PCOS. And with PCOS, it's very difficult to conceive. And then many women today have painful periods. Painful periods is a sign of bad health. It's not like pop a Meftal and get rid of the pain or put a hot water bag and just sit. It could mean that you are developing fibroids, which will eventually become so big that you'll have to surgically remove it. Right? So a menstrual cycle should just you have a 24, 28 day cycle, should creep in and go out peacefully. That's how your body is designed to have it. Right? And I've had it all my life like that. So I never knew what painful period is or, a bad cycle is. And today, since we have the medium to talk about it, we can, So I'm saying to all the young women, keep a track of your menstrual cycle. And if you can keep that, going good, you take gynec help if you need to, wherever required, then you're in a good place. Overall health and fitness. One other option that I will talk about today, because I have friends who've done it, egg freezing. I mean, now it's being done quite aggressively from whatever little I know. But with egg freezing, something that everyone must know, because they're talking about it so much, is that you can freeze your eggs and keep the health of your eggs. Question is, you're going to put it back in your body. So if you are not going to be healthy and fit enough to put that egg in your stomach, in your body or uterus, and then allow it to grow, then it's failed effort, right? So freeze your eggs, continue to still be fit and healthy, and then you know that you're in a good place to have a baby at 35, 37, 38. Mentally though, which again, I guess most of us don't talk about, it's far more challenging at 40. I think mentally postpartum is challenging even at 22, because at 22 though you are still a baby, right? You're really clueless, you're figuring out life and you're suddenly, but a lot of, when you look at our parents, grandparents, they all had that, of course they had a village at that point to help them, but mentally it's tough at any point. I feel like it gets far more tougher as we age, only because, by the time you're 40, you're so set in your ways. You have a routine, you have a life, everything is set. You're not vulnerable to many things. And then suddenly this becomes like, oh my God, my life has just become topsy-turvy. You're not fully open to that kind of change. But at 22, 23, even if it's hard, you're open to change.